Hello, we're live. Welcome to Keeping Up With Conspicuous. We have the amazing Alex Meyer, MVP, on today, who I've known for a few years, and we are going to discuss all things dynamics and security from the master, that is Alex Meyer. So welcome to the podcast, Alex.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Alex, and thank you, Conspicuous, for having me.
Oh, that's all right. That's right. Well, it's quite an apt topic at the moment. What with the CrowdStrike situation a couple of weeks
Right.
ago. So security is certainly, apart from the Olympics, seems to be, security's in the news. So, so I thought, a really interesting to talk about at any time, but particularly at the moment. And Alex being an expert in that field, I thought is certainly a great guest to have on, and actually I'm interested to learn about all things security within Dynamics 365 as well, because it's an area that I'm not amazingly up to date with, and I'm sure it changes on a weekly basis. So Alex, why don't you introduce us to yourself, and I
Mhm.
guess maybe give us an overview of perhaps the challenges that Dynamics 365 might be facing on the security side at the moment.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Alex Meyer. I work for a company called Delinea, which recently acquired a company that I used to work for called FastPath. Um, I still work on our GRC risk tool, which connects to a number of different systems, ERP systems, whether it's Microsoft Dynamics, Oracle EBS, SAP, NetSuite, Intact, Salesforce, Workday. You pick a business app, we probably connect to it. And we help customers do security and compliance reporting around those, right? And other functionality around administration, governance, risk compliance, that type of thing. So, uh, yeah, I started at FastPath way back in 2013, worked there up until uh, 2022, took a break, went to consulting, came back to what is now Delinea from that. So, yeah, been a little bit of a journey there, but yeah, so I got started when I guess quick background. And when I got started at FastPath, I didn't really have I was security focused in my
Mm-hmm.
background in my schooling. I got a computer engineering degree focused on networking and security. So I found a company called FastPath that was local that did security. I never could barely spell ERP at that time, right? I didn't have any background in that, and so luckily found some great mentors in that in the initial company to kind of take me under their wing and show me the ropes. And then I kind of took that and ran with it. So started doing sessions and presentations at conferences in I think
Mm-hmm.
2016, and started getting my name out there. Created the blog that I have. Started getting active in the community, and started finding my niche as far as there wasn't a whole lot of content being created around the security licensing, things like that, in the dynamic space in particular. And so kind of found a home that I could help create content that Microsoft was missing and that
Mm-hmm.
people needed, especially if they had internal external audit needs or security needs, right? And so
Yeah.
um, found kind of grew that following a little bit till 2019. Got noticed by some Microsoft folks and was nominated for MVP award. So I got that, was awarded that in November of 2019 and have renewed it ever since. Just kind of kept going, presenting at live conferences in the US and in Europe, and then also doing webinars and other things to engage the community since then. So
Yeah.
um, that's a little bit of background about me. I guess from the second question you asked, as far as the uh, you know what's hard, I guess, or what
Mm.
challenges face Dynamics,
Yeah.
in a sense, I think there's two different uh, parts to that. So one, if you're looking specifically at, a lot of my content is focused on the finance and operations side, or the enterprise side of the Dynamics offering. The security model is somewhat complex there, right?
Mm.
So, just having the knowledge of how this security works. And the second part to that is, I think the fact that security and licensing are tied together in that space. because what you're assigned actually drives the licensing that you're required to have, and so there's this tie between the two that can make it very easy to be over provisioned, right? And then therefore over licensed, so you're paying more for it. So I think
Right.
that is kind of the one thing from an F&O side. If you look wider at dynamics, I think, I think the biggest uh, hurdle, or I guess the biggest change in recent years is probably no surprise to anybody, is the addition of Copilot into
Mm.
environments where you're a lot of companies are trying to add that in. They want to give that fantastic, powerful tool to their
Mm.
their workers to help drive efficiency and things like that. And what they're finding out is that if they don't have their current security locked down, right, that Copilot may surface information that potentially they shouldn't have, right? They may have had access to,
Oh.
they didn't know how they had access to it, but Copilot, is more than willing to go and serve that up to them. And so I think that's probably the biggest thing. If you look wider from a Dynamics or even a Microsoft
Mm.
perspective, right, what's the biggest change that you've seen in probably the past 12 months?
Oh wow, yeah, yeah. 'Cause I think you mentioned this to me a few weeks ago, didn't you? So that yeah,
Yeah.
obviously if you're a Copilot, you could type in, send me the salaries of all employees, and
Yeah.
in theory, if the governance has been put in place properly, it will, Copilot
Sure.
might have access to that data, and then
Right.
you are, yeah, okay, yeah, yeah, that's a fairly well. There you go. Well, you'll be busy then for the next few
Yeah.
years by the sound
For sure. Yeah.
of it. Oh, that's great. And how, just so interesting, I know it has been in the news a lot recently. I mean,
Hmm.
do you find that companies? I've always been interested, because you get these sort of security things, don't you, every sort of few months,
Yep.
and then there's this big thing, news stories. And do you find you suddenly get really busy after that period because everyone re-looks at this? Do you find there's like a constant flow? Do you find in your when these things happen, you suddenly have now we've had the CrowdStrike issue. Are you just hectic with every company going, oh my, what's happened? Like, are we secure enough? What are we doing right? Are you
Yeah.
suddenly, what is going on? I'm so busy, I can't sleep. Or how does it work? I've always been interested
Yeah.
in how that works.
No, that's a great question. I think, anytime you have something like that, I think it makes companies kind of take a step back and relook at their not only their security controls, but especially if they're a software company like Delinea and
Mm,
FastPath are, right? To what are their controls for releasing code, right? And all of that too, because that was part
yeah.
of that whole process as well. But I think it does make the it does make it easier to kind of point as a scenario to point to when you're having discussions
Mm,
with your the CFO or financial controller or procurement people, right? And they're saying, why do we need to spend this much money, not only on things like FastPath or Delinea products, but like
mm,
any Microsoft or any security products in general, right? A lot of the times that's kind of looked at as like a just a sunk cost, or a cost
yeah.
that they are not recuperating from an ROI perspective. And I think it makes it
Yeah.
really easy to point to, incidents like this and go, okay, we don't want that to happen, right? So,
Yeah.
whatever money we need to spend to make sure that that doesn't happen, right? And what controls we have in place, what do we need to do to make sure that doesn't? And so it kind of makes those conversations a little bit easier, because a lot of times I think companies will push off security in general. Again, not only looking at
Mm,
dynamics, but just security in general, and
mm,
just say, hey, we don't need to work. We don't have time to worry about that until there's
yeah.
a security incident like this, and then everyone kind of jumps up and says, okay, how can we stop this from happening, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting business like that, isn't it? It's a very reactionary business, isn't it?
A
Like you
little
say,
bit, yeah,
till there's a problem, of course, I appreciate probably are there are obviously lots of companies that think ahead, but I'm sure there are
right,
also lots of companies that think, wait till the incident and then go, okay, we might
yeah,
need to solve this.
for sure.
Yeah. And how does it? I've always and so Dynamics has its own. So does it have its own security built into it then, or your products? I think that you mentioned they go cross platform. So
Hmm.
um, does an enterprise company have to, is Dynamics as a product secure on its own, or do you need to have other software to make it secure?
So I think the one thing to kind of keep in mind is a lot of the times these ERPs have their own security model built into the application.
Mm,
A lot of sysadmins, if you go at companies, right, are understand Entra ID, understand, what used to be called Azure AD, right, and being able to
mm,
place customer users in different, you know, groups, right, and those groups have access to certain resources, right. I mean, they all kind of
right.
understand that RBAC, the role-based access control side of things, right. But then once you start getting into the individual apps, right, a lot of the individual apps also have their own security model separate from the Entra ID. Now, some of them hook in, right, and F&O does have kind of a hidden feature to allow you to do that. But
Mm, mm,
natively, there isn't anything that you can control from Entra ID that would impact your security and within the application. Microsoft's adding that. They recently added it to like Business Central.
mm,
F&O's had a hidden feature that does that, right? So I mean, there
mm,
are things that allow you to do that, but I mean, not every business application product does, and so that's where you get a lot of the disconnect, I guess, because your normal, unless you have somebody that's a SME in a particular application, it can become
mm,
a little more difficult, right, to set up the your security within the app. So I mean, products like all of the Microsoft Dynamics products come with out of the box roles, right, that
yeah,
Microsoft
yeah.
has created. And I think to answer the initial question, the application itself is secure, right? If you don't have access to
Mm,
something, the application will stop you. The biggest
right.
question is like, how do I get my security correct so that my users can do their day-to-day jobs but aren't over provisioned and can see things they shouldn't, right? And so that's where
Yeah.
some products are better than others, right? Some of
Mm,
have the idea of quote unquote least privilege security in them, or
mm,
you can help build that, and some products don't. And so that's kind of where and a lot of the reporting tools in these different ERPs are built more from an IT perspective and maybe not an
mm,
audit perspective. And so that's kind of where a fast path product helps with that. So you don't there's not a like uh, a technical need, right, for
yeah.
these individual products, but it makes your lives a lot easier, right? So it's kind of a question of how much time and effort do I want to spend internally? Do I want to have a resource internally at my company that is a SME for these applications, or would I rather, move that to, having a company like, FastPath or somebody, right, helping with that and answering those
Okay.
questions, right? So it's
Yeah.
kind of a question to the individual organization.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was thinking that. Yeah, because obviously, thinking in terms of like CIOs and IT directors we might have watching this. That's a good. That
Right.
maybe they're thinking that. How secure is my system that I've got at the moment, and
Right.
do I need to
Exactly.
invest? So and that's a really good explanation that you said. That actually, yes, it is secure, but obviously, what FastPath and Delinea do is just give you a little bit more and make it your life a
Correct.
bit easier. So,
Yep.
um, okay, no, that's there you go. I didn't know that, so that's good. Okay, great. All right, and so your product integrates with all with Business Central as well, and what other ERPs does it
Yeah.
integrate with?
Yeah. I think we have 27, 28-ish native integrations, and then we have
Okay.
um, we have a universal product integrator, right, that can connect to, any other system that's outside of that. But all of the Microsoft, I mean, the company started in the Dynamics space, Microsoft Dynamics space when they were on-prem. So that's
Okay.
kind of
Wow.
where, in the Microsoft products are kind of the core. And then we
Mm,
added in others around that, right? Because other ERPs, pop up, or best of breed applications too. So like Coupa, Zora, like all those
mm,
satellite, or again, complementary products, right, set it outside.
mm,
But it's the core of the business from a GRC SOD side, right, is really looking at your financial systems, where's money coming into the organization, where's it going out, who has the ability to move that money around, things like that are the biggest ones we see. But we're starting to see more of the more the sensitive access side, as far as who can create resources, right, in my Azure portal or Entra ID space, right, and being able
yeah.
to maybe it's not a true segregation of duties or separation of duties issue, right? But it's more of
Mm,
who can do these things, and maybe you it's again, if you want a quote unquote single pane of glass to be able to look across those different applications, that's where FastPath can help with that.
oh, brilliant. Okay. There we go. Well, there you go. That's good for everyone to know who's watching. So that's fantastic. And slightly off topic, again, you can't have a podcast these days without talking about AI. So
Yeah,
let's have a quick discussion about it.
for sure.
um, yeah, I mean, this is not necessarily to ERP so much, but
Right,
I know that companies have got to be fearful of slightly of how advanced AI is going to make you know the targeting of companies.
right,
And I suppose what would you advise, if you're an enterprise customer, you think, right, okay, I'm hearing all this thing about what people can do with AI and how, and you hear all these stories, don't you, of AI tricking people into, giving them hundreds of millions of dollars and
right,
and it is going to get so advanced. I mean, as a man on the inside on security, I mean, what advice would you give to companies thinking, how do I protect my company and its assets, when it's all getting so advanced so quick, and I can't, there's only so much money in the world I can spend on security before I'm
right,
literally out of money for my company. Is there anything that companies can do? What would you advise a company as,
right.
how do you protect yourself?
Yeah. And I think there's a couple different avenues to kind of take that down. I think first and foremost, right, we kind of mentioned it already, was but to ensure that your users from a organization perspective, right, that you're taking that look at security and making sure that before you even implement Copilot or any other AI tool, that your
Mm,
users are assigned the correct access. I mean, Microsoft actually has a page that will go in and say, if you don't have your RBAC settings correct, please don't implement Copilot. Basically, that's a prereq
right.
for implementing, right? So I think that's first and foremost, to make sure that from looking internally, right, that you're
Mm,
limiting the risk that your users are going to have access to data they shouldn't. From an
mm,
external threat perspective, right, as far as either video or audio duping or deep fakes and things like that, as far
mm,
as trying to trick individuals, or even
mm,
even as simple as like spoofing or text messages and things like that. I think it's having controls in place to ensure that there are multiple people along the line before
mm,
any
mm.
big, especially money leaving the organization. I think is the biggest
Yes.
probably fear in that
Yeah.
case, right? Um,
Yeah.
is probably ensuring that there are multiple controls in place to have individual, not just one individual is controlling that, right? So that's a
Mm,
key, like segregation of duties or separation of duties again, right? To say before this wire leaves the organization or before this payment is going out, right, that we verify
mm,
that we know where this is going, right, from that perspective. So I agree. I think it's not gonna, it's kind of the new wave of, I don't, like early days of the internet, right, where you had your viruses and antivirus software, right, and
mm,
people, they were trying to figure out, it was kind of a competition. It's the same thing on the AI side now, where Microsoft and others are trying to protect people against these more advanced AI generated attacks. And at the end of the day, your organization is only going to be as secure as the people, process, and technology, to steal a quote from one of my colleagues, that you have in place, right? So you want to make sure that that your organization is security minded, and that your people understand why that's important as well, because
mm,
you could have the best technology in the world, right, and have everything locked down from a technological perspective, but if somebody bypasses the control, or says, oh, I'll just go ahead and run this, or pay this bill, right, or
mm,
without going through the process, right, or that's where it doesn't matter the security you have in place, right? If your people don't understand why you're going through and doing these things and understand the importance of it, right? That's also that's the biggest weakness in any security system, honestly.
mm. Okay. So yes, it's an education and a training piece, isn't it? Really, what
Of
it comes
course.
down to, and
Yep.
that's which is the same we see on an ERP implementation side. You see the same
Yep.
thing. You put the system in and no one knows how to use it, which effectively is
Right.
what
Yeah.
you're saying. But this is just you're dealing with threats and Yeah, okay. Well, there you go. Well, hopefully, companies will have to hire thousands of people to have massive lines of security
Right.
controls, and then everyone, and then we'll be happy here at Conspicuous. But yeah, no, I definitely think that's a very valid point. In that, yeah, there was that example a few months ago, I think, wasn't there, of the AI tricking someone into sending, X
Yep.
amount of millions, and that almost certainly what you described there is the solution. You need to have a few
Right.
levels of control before any money leaves the organization. So
Yep.
there you go. You calm us all down, Alex. You make things sound not so scary. So that's good.
I try.
Well, that's good. Well, that's really interesting. I mean, and yeah, I think that's really all I had. But I mean, I think we talked about a lot there, and we talked about kind of ERP and Copilot, and that is super apt at the moment,
Yep.
and like you said, those security controls in place for that are really, really key. And the AI implementation of threats and business applications are really key as well. So I think that's, I appreciate we've covered quite a lot in this episode in a short space of time. But yeah, I do encourage anyone that's watching that is concerned about the security to speak to Alex Meyer. That is not me.
Yeah.
I will not be able to give you much advice, but but I would definitely point in the direction of Alex, and he will be able to tell you and give you advice on how to protect your business. And obviously, FastPath have been doing it and for a very long time, so they know what they're doing. And there's obviously a lot of threats out there, but there are a lot of solutions as well. So I think it's
Yeah.
just really key that we're all learning, and then there will be a way. And obviously, there's going to be things out there, and there's always new technology that comes up and tries to fool us all. But it's there's always
Yeah.
people like Alex to protect us, aren't there? So
Yeah, and I'm happy to, like you were saying, I'm happy to answer any questions. That's one of the things that I really like to do, whether you're talking or coming to me with questions about FastPath or Delinea or just questions about security. I'm happy to answer those. So you can find me. I have a blog online, like I mentioned, for all the Microsoft stuff that I do.
mm,
Uh,
oh,
so you can find me at alexdmeyer.com, or you can go directly to my blog at d365foblog.com. Both of those will get you to my website. I have an entire security course on F&O. I'm actually doing sessions later. If you're coming to the Dynamics Community Summit conference later this year
oh yeah,
in
yeah.
October, I have multiple sessions there, and an 8-hour academy course if you want to go and become a administrative and development expert in F&O. Myself and another MVP are putting on an 8-hour academy course as part of that. So feel free to check that out as well. So again, I'm happy to, one of the things I really like to do is answer questions in the community. So absolutely feel free to reach out. Whether it's FastPath and Delinea related or not, it's not I want to make sure that people have the right information to make the best decision for themselves.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll put a link to Alex's blogs and all, and we'll put a
Awesome.
link to we can put a link probably to your session at
Yeah,
Summit as well, can't we? So
perfect.
everyone's got access to that. So yeah, definitely check out all that information. Alex is the font of knowledge, so he will be able to tell you everything you need to know. And as Alex says, anyone who's going to Summit, check out the course as well.
Yep. Yeah.
But yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. Thank you. Well, thank you very much for coming on, Alex. And it's as I said, it's a brilliant topic to cover, particularly at the moment. And really, and we'll catch up at Summit, I'm sure. So I'll
Absolutely.
see you in San Antonio.
Yeah. Thanks again for having me, and thanks everybody for joining today.
Yeah, thank you very much. Take care, everyone. See you in a few weeks.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.